Welcome to the behind the scenes of me creating 8 taster cakes for 2 incredible couples. I mark the boards to make sure that I have the right flavors. I always keep a plant in the kitchen. I don't know why. I love just to admire. It just keeps me going. The first thing I did was create my chocolate ganache. If you'd like the recipe, please do let me know. Gave my marble a good wiping and then created my ace salts and creatine mixture just to keep me focused and keep the energy levels up. And there you can see the 4+4 taster cakes lined up. And then I leveled each cake out. I created 3 layers of cake and 2 layers of filling for each taster cake. That is generally the size. I think it's the perfect size for the couples to indulge in, and then wrapped it up. Keep it wrapped up to retain the moisture of the cakes. That's my favorite one over there. One of my favorites, that is, the vanilla and chocolate swirl cake. There's red velvet. There is passion fruit and lemon. There's a vanilla bean with salted caramel. And then I think there's also just a plain lemon, if I'm not mistaken. But I love the fact that the couples were a little bit adventurous this time. I then lined up my bowls. The night before, I created my big batch of my buttercream. And now I go ahead and just flavor each filling up. You'll see that I showcase one of the fillings, which is lemon. I use fresh lemon zest and fresh lemon juice to create that filling. And then I created a couple of others: chocolate, cream cheese, passion fruit, salted caramel, and a cherry buttercream. Then starting off with the crumb coating part of the cake, or actually even before we get to the crumb coating part, lining up the cake on the cake board, then adding a simple syrup to each layer just to keep the cakes nice and moist, in the chance that the couples eat them over a few evenings. And then I add my filling. The filling needs to be at peanut butter consistency to work best for the cakes. And then I continue to fold the cakes, layer them until I'm done with the top layer. It's a very therapeutic process, but can be tiresome if you are doing 8 of these cakes, and it takes a lot of time. It's very, very time consuming because each cake demands the same amount of consistency, and each cake filling is slightly different, and each cake flavor is slightly different. So you've got to maintain a focus. And you can see I'm just putting the last layer on the top and then adding my simple syrup again. And I did this for all 8 cakes. But before I pop it into the fridge, I then give the cake a crumb coating. So what the crumb coating does is it keeps all the crumbs in place. And this way, with my final coating, there will be no crumbs in it or on it. So it'll have more of a clean finish. For the taster cakes, I tend to put a thin layer of buttercream on the outside. Not too much, as I want the couples to try and taste the actual cake and actual filling more than the outer covering, if that makes sense. So I go ahead and crumb coat my 4-inch cake. Once the cake is crumb coated, I then pop it into the fridge for a couple of minutes, and then I proceed with the final coating, which needs to be on the very smooth side. I use a metal bench scraper just to get it as smooth as possible. And then I pop it back into the fridge. So yeah, I am doing another cake. As you can see, the crumb coat has already been applied to the cake, and I'm going in with my final coating to try and get it as smooth as possible. This was a vanilla chocolate swirl cake. If you like this kind of content, please do hit the subscribe button. I plan to do a lot more behind the scenes. If you have any questions, please do let me know. If you like the buttercream recipe, please do let me know. Or I might just add it to the description. So this is a very stable buttercream. It's not a Swiss meringue. It's a very stable one. It has a longer shelf life because of the icing sugar. and it does crust up beautifully, and it keeps the cake quite stable, and it remains stable even outside of the fridge for quite a while. In South Africa, it gets quite hot, so I like this as a finish for my buttercream cakes, especially for my tasters. Once I'm finished with the final coat on each cake, I dip my palette knife into a mug of boiling water, and then I gently remove the excess on the top of the cake just to create a smooth finish. You can see it has firmed up beautifully, so I'm able to remove that bit of lip or the excess of the buttercream quite easily. A steady hand with light pressure goes a very long way when working with buttercream. And then I just take a little bit of boiling water on the palette knife and give the top a nice smoothing. I then pipe some buttercream on the top just to finish off the cake. I love piping. If you'd like to learn more about piping, please do let me know. I do one row on the top and then one row to finish the bottom, just to create a beautifully neat edge at the bottom of the cake. Those finishing details are so important, and even though they are taster cakes, I believe that they still need to look absolutely amazing. I do this with each and every one of them, pop them back into the fridge, and then we'll move on to the final touches. So there we go again with a second taster cake, removing that excess with the palette knife and some boiling water. And then I'm just going to go ahead and finish off the cake the same way I did the first one, by piping some buttercream on the top and at the bottom of the cake. So in order to keep track of each flavor, I've had to mark the bottom of the boards with the name of the flavor. And then I just created a little fondant circle with an edible marker. I've written on the flavor of each one, and I'm popping that onto the center of each cake. And then I created a little flower in gold just to finish it off and make it look a little pretty. I love a clean finish, so that's my absolute favorite finish. And here we have all 8 beautifully decorated taster cakes ready for my incredible clients. Thank you so much. If you've made it this far in the video, please do hit the subscribe button. Lots of love.